Recorded Books and RB Digital present Buzzard's Bluff, a Ben Savage Saloon Ranger Western by William W. Johnstone and J. A. Johnstone. Narrated by Graham Winton. Chapter 1. Wilfred Tuttle stood in the open door of his store and watched the two riders he could see in the distance approaching his store. As his eyes were no longer as sharp as they used to be when he was a younger man, he squinted in an effort to identify the two men. Tuttle had operated his little store perched on the bank of the Brazos River for more than 20 years, and he had seen his share of good and bad men. At this particular time, he hoped the two approaching now were a better sort than the two who had left his store that morning. At least he was sure they weren't the same two, for those men were following the river trail down the Brazos. The riders he was looking at now were traveling from the west to intercept the river trail. After a few moments more, his scraggly whiskers parted to make room for a grin when he recognized the familiar form of Texas Ranger Ben Savage. The fellow with him, riding one of those horses called a Palouse, was still unfamiliar to him. He walked on out to the porch to wait for them. "Howdy, Ben," Tuttle sang out when he pulled up at the hitching rail and dismounted. He had grown to like the broad-shouldered, easy-going ranger in the last 12 years since Ben had made his first visit to his store. "Who you got with you?" Tuttle asked. "Howdy, Wilfred," Ben responded. "This is Ranger Billy Turner. He's come down from Fort Worth." They tied their horses and stepped up on the porch. "Howdy, Billy," Tuttle said. "Welcome to my store." Turning back to Ben, he asked, "You wouldn't happen to be looking for two mangy-looking saddle tramps riding the downriver trail, would you?" "As a matter of fact," Ben answered. "When did they leave here?" "This morning," Tuttle said. "About 8:30, I'd say, and I was glad to see 'em go. Who are they?" "They're stagecoach bandits," Ben answered. He paused before going on. "Billy here came down from Fort Worth to give us a hand in catching up with them." "Pleased to meet you, Mr. Tuttle," Billy said, and extended his hand. "Same here," Tuttle answered, and shook his hand. "Who are those two? Anybody I've ever heard of?" "I doubt it," Ben replied. "Samuel Bigfoot Sam Kelly and his partner Jack Queen." "Nah, I ain't heard of them. You say they robbed a stagecoach? Where was that?" He knew there was no stagecoach line out this way. "North of Dallas," Ben said. "They killed one of the passengers and wounded the fellow riding shotgun. We got word they were heading this way. Billy and I tried to see if we could head 'em off, but if we're still half a day behind them, we're going to have to ride hard to make up that ground." "We've been riding pretty hard since sunup," Billy said, "so we're going to have to rest the horses here. I don't know about that dun of yours," he said to Ben, "but my horse is tired." He grinned at Tuttle then. "Ben told me we could buy something to eat when we got here. Said you had a Mexican woman who would cook us up some breakfast." Tuttle laughed and nodded to Ben. "Rosa," he said. "He's right about that, as long as it is breakfast, something she can cook up right away. Course, it's past dinner time right now, but this ain't no restaurant, so it's a good thing you're thinking about some breakfast." "Breakfast is what I was counting on," Billy assured him, "'cause I ain't had none today." He rubbed his belly and complained. Ben wouldn't wait for breakfast this morning. His comment seemed to amuse Tuttle. He chuckled and said, "Well, take care of your horses, and I'll tell Rosa to fry up some sow belly and eggs. There's always a pot of coffee on the stove, but I'll tell her to make up some fresh for a couple of rangers. Will that do?" "That'll do," Billy answered. "Wouldn't hurt if she was to have some biscuits left over from dinner, too," Ben suggested. Tuttle laughed again. "I expect she's got some left over. If she don't, she'll most likely bake some fresh ones when she finds out you're here." "Tell her not to go to that much trouble," Ben insisted. "I just thought if she still had some cold ones, we'd try to catch her before she throws them to the hogs." He turned to face Billy then. "Come on, Billy. We'll go water the horses." He led the way behind the store to a little grassy clearing that ran down to the water's edge. "Rosa," Billy asked. "Is that Tuttle's wife?" "No," Ben answered. "Tuttle's wife, Mildred, died about 4 years ago, after she took a fever one evening and passed on the next. Rosa Cruz is—"
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.